Hello, everyone, and welcome to the new year of Anti-Life Reviews. We are on episode 60 of this illustrious show. I am so glad to have you here with me. I am, of course, the Tona Makai, a master of minds and men. This week and next, we are going to be looking at the comic version of one of my favorite fictional characters, Elric of Melniboné. I don't know if I said that right. I've actually heard someone say it out loud. Melniboné, I don't know. Today I'm going to look at Conan the Barbarian from Marvel Comics, issue 14 and 15, which ran from March 1972 to May 1972, and Elric, The Balance Lost, issues 1 through 4, which ran from July 2011 to October 2011. So let's go ahead and get on with it. But of course, before I begin, it's my goal to continue to improve this channel. I think I'm moving in the right direction. If you found anything I did entertaining, please hit that subscribe button right now. Thank you very much. Let's go over the writers and artists on this. The writer on Conan was Roy Thomas. I talked about Roy on my Thor the Eternal Sagas video, so please go ahead and check that out. But he was also a Marvel mainstay, credited with helping to create such characters as Luke Cage, Iron Fist, Ultron, Adam Warlock, Ghost Rider, and many others, including a little character called Wolverine. He had epic runs on the Avengers, Thor, and the longest run on Conan the Barbarian history. Also a noted Elric fan. On that same series, Michael Moorcock and Jay Cawthorne did plots on it. Michael Moorcock is the creator of Elric, so not surprised to see him here. He is reasonably protective of his IPs, and Marvel really wanted to do Elric proper. He also created Jerry Cornelius and the Eternal Champion concept. He's just an incredible writer and a very interesting person. I'm not going to get into a long Michael rant here because I can, but he is someone to look into, frankly, and worthy of anyone's time. James J. Cawthorne was a constant associate and friend with Michael, co-writing lots of various things with him as well as his own comics and short stories. He also was an artist on Moorcock's stories when adapted by Savory Books. He sadly passed in 2008. Writer on the Elric The Balance Lost is Chris Robertson, a Kevin J. Anderson-style sci-fi author, in that he writes a lot of existing IP's work, which is just fine. That's not a slight, just a statement. Worked on books about Star Trek, X-Men, Shark Boy and Lava Girl, as well as various comics, including an absolute ton of Hellboy and one-off issues on a lot of different stuff. Now, the artist on Conan is the legendary Barry Windsor Smith. I mentioned him before, I believe, in my Machine Man 2020 review. He did the covers on that. I love Barry Smith. He's one of my top favorite artists. I need to make a list one day to figure out who goes where, but he would definitely be on it. His Marvel comic presentation stuff, where he did Weapon X, is amazing. Of course, he just did an independent book called Monsters that came out this year or last year that I absolutely loved, just loved. I'll talk about that someday, though. The art on the Elric series, Francisco Biagani, artist I actually really like. He has this raw, visceral style. I know his work from Morrison's 18 Days, and he does a lot of great art on Instagram, actually. This is a perfect book for him. I hope he can capture that Elric magic. Conan the Barbarian, Volume 1, Issue 14, a sword called Stormbringer. Right off the bat, I love Barry's art. It's beautiful. The panel layout is classic. His work on every detail is it's astounding. This and a reasonably competent writing is what made this book the success it was, to the surprise of many, I think. A very formulaic story. Wizard tricks Conan into helping him against another enemy. He sends his daughter, who is a sorceress, with Conan. They run afoul of a bone white rider and cross blades. And of course, that rider is Elric with his ebony blade Stormbringer. They clash and the fighting is awesome, with neither the barbarian nor the magician getting the upper hand. Eventually, as these things go, they realize they are on the same side, and of course, it's about that time the bad guys show up. More fighting, and the two slaughter just literally, they're standing on piles of bodies. The daughter helps with a rain spell, and the three walk off together, a minor victory. Some good lore here, a mixture of Conan and Elric lore sort of fused together. Stuff about Melniboné, the city Elric is from, Gods of Chaos, Hyperborea, where Conan is from. Just some nice world building, great action. The fights were very cool, nice visuals. Each panel had energy. A great comic, lots of dialogue, lots of conversation, lots of stuff going on. That being said, I don't love Elric's design. A weird green wizard cap. He looks silly, but it is what it is. Conan the Barbarian, Volume 1, Issue 15, The Hell Hordes of Chaos. The trio fight their way to the sunken city of Yagala, and they almost instantly take it to the bad guys with that classic grid layout fighting that I'm a real sucker for. The main evil chick shows up and she begins tearing the house down. So everyone begins fighting on the same side, as she just wants all the power for herself. The girl with Conan and Elric, turns out she has crazy superpowers. Uses all of her magic to turn back the evil sorceress. I guess they really didn't need those two after all. The two warriors leave, Elric returning to some other land via a portal with some bitter words said between them, with Elric saying, "Your race is young, Conan, mine is old as time itself. Seek not to gauge all hearts, all minds, by the immature measure of your own." Powerful words. Conan returns to that girl. He returns the girl's body to her father because she died in battle. Conan is quite bitter at him as well, saying, "I've gore enough on my tail to damn me to 1,000 hells, if hells there be, and that he will drink a toast to both the living and the dead in the first tavern I find." The barbarian rides off into the setting sun. An excellent issue, formulaic, like I said, but powerfully done, masterfully written. The ending with all the goodbyes was superb. These Conan issues are so good. I need to come back to more of these. As just this little taste has me excited to read more. But we're going to be moving on from that. Elric, The Balance Lost, Issue 1. Skipping ahead almost 40 years to the only ongoing comic I could really find about Elric. Can it match up to the simple, brilliant affair of the Conan Marvel? The majority of this first issue is spent showing us the main characters, which is usually a good idea, and it's a symmetry about the Eternal Champions. The Eternal Champion was a concept Michael Moorcock played with as a character that could be many, as they were all reincarnations of this sort of idea of a righteous fury throughout time, space, realities. Elric was one of these Eternal Champions, famously. So we meet Elric, of course, and Coran Jahil Israel, Dorian Hawkmoon, and Eric Beck, all variations of the Eternal Champion dealing with essentially the same looming threat. That, of course, as the Eternal Champion, for the sake of this comic, are all servants of chaos. Dorian must go to Americ, which is just America, with a black order of wizards he can't seem to get rid of. Corm arrives home after countless battles to find his place taken over by the Legions of Order. Eric Beck's modern day, and he's sort of a lame college dude with an evil black-haired twin who killed their parents or his girlfriend or whatever, and heads up a fascist political party. Elric feels the combined weight of all these men, and facing down great hordes, gives into the bloodlust of his sword, Stormbringer. Meanwhile, in the present, a Furiosa-looking chick appears to take Eric somewhere to help save everything. Art is very modern, which is both a positive and a negative. It slightly dates it, I don't know. But it does look overall pretty good. It has a grim and gritty veneer to it that works for the emo Elric. That story, while all set up, was more compelling than I had imagined, as I had never heard anything about this series, and that usually is a bad thing. But this was pretty good and kept a nice flow. Elric, The Balance Lost, Issue 2. Going to break these down into each individual character's story. We learned overall that Chaos and Order are out of whack. No surprise there. Dorian Hawkmoon, I never get sick of saying that name, pretty much just goes to his queen and says, "Yo, I'm taking off to deal with shit," and gets in his Super Sentai Power Rangers Flying Zord and leaves. Coram Jahil Israel saves a friend of his from the evil fascists, and they leave together across the sea on a giant black horse, which is pimp. I mean, it's like 100 stories tall. It's awesome. Eric Beck, he leaves with the Furiosa girl. She explains the Eternal Champion and the multiverse to him and says they have to go steal a sword, which is technically his. Obviously, it was Stormbringer at some point, or still is, I don't know. Elric kills lots of things. A friend finds him when they travel across this weird broken land where people are enslaved to figure out what's going on. Interesting setup issue. This is a 12-issue story, so I assume this one story takes up the whole thing. So I'm totally fine with a few issues of just setting up everything as that fits the narrative. Beyond that, pretty good. I like the fact that there's a friend in most of these stories that is obviously the same person in each reality too, much like the champion character, a Virgil to their Dante, if you will. Elric, The Balance Lost, Issue 3. Continuing with what I've been doing, just going to go ahead and do each character individually. Coram Jahil Israel. Coran and his friend, whose name I don't know yet, arrive across the ocean to see a fight between two natives, tall brown-skinned guys, and what appears to be pygmy fellows who are behind their walls. Coran sides with the pygmies as it appears to be their land. Dorian Hawkmoon. Hawkmoon and friend arrive in the city he was headed for in his cool mech. They're taken by a burly fella to see a black ceremony with guys who wear awesome fly armor, clearly the sect or cult he was looking for, and Eric Beck. Eric and O'Reilly, the Furiosa girl, break into a lady's house who has the sword, which looks like a black katana here, not the epic sword Elric has. She finds them out, says, I slept with an eternal champion, so I know one when I see them. Fine, whatever. Then his evil brother shows up with his own sword, a white one, and some really underarmed fascists. They don't even have guns. And Elric and his friend Spirits need to get to the meat boat, a boat made of demon and human flesh, both gross and cool. And they are not allowed on the boat, as they are human. So they go to the Machinerex, the people who enslaved humanity, and their citadel, and act like they are Gordon Freeman. They steal a horn, but end up surrounded. Interesting to see parallels of each story, sort of almost telling the same story, but the differences are important. A good step forward in the series, still nicely paced. I don't hate any of the characters, and I'm engaged enough to want to continue on, though the woman being like, I slept with an eternal champion, I can identify all of them, is a bit stupid. Elric, The Balance Lost, Issue 4. Last issue of the week, we start out in a strange city with some monks in long robes playing a long game with mysterious pieces. Moving to our characters, Quorum Jahil Israel. Quorum is celebrated by the pygmies and given the stickiest of the ickiest that they have, but the pipe, which they gave him, turns into a chalice, then a staff. The native people try to retake the castle, then something happens, and I'll tell you at the end. Dorian Hawkmoon. Hawk and Co. go on the attack, but one friend is killed, the other injured. The evil fly guys summon their awesome giant fly god, which has a flame halo and skull mouth, but then, we'll get to that, to Eric Beck. Eric fights his brother. O'Reilly tries to shoot him, but it doesn't work. The gun backfires, killing her and injuring the brother. But then, Elric is told to not worry about killing the Machinerex and to blow the horn, which will help open a portal. But Stormbringer demands blood, so Elric rages. Finally, he blows the horn. Spiraz is sucked away by some energies and tells Eric to look for Tanlorn. But then, all of the realities break down with each of the Eternal Champions seeing one another. The worlds begin to meld together. Spirits arrives at the home of the men playing the chess game or whatever, tells them that the Lord of the higher worlds are acting alone. They declare they are all pawns in another game and how close we are to a finish. It's really compelling storytelling, actually. I don't love Eric's story, as it's not particularly interesting, so I'm glad he's not the main focus, as I would have clocked out a long time ago. But getting a little bit of each of these characters with more Elric than any of the others works wonders for this narrative, I'll be honest with you. So my overview. The Marvel Conan issues impressed me to no end. Classic storytelling, fantastic art. I love the paneling, good characterization. I genuinely loved those two issues. We'll be coming back to more Conan eventually, which I've long overlooked to my detriment. I've read an issue here or there, but I need to commit to more of it. Balance Lost series has also been pretty good, though not quite as good as the Conan issues. But it threaded a narrative with lots of Moorcock lore that is working for me thus far. A lot better than I had expected. The art is serviceable, if not a little bit boring, but not bad at all or ugly, and very consistent. Storytelling is a little shallow with each piece is taken by itself, sort of nothing. But melded together, it gives something I'm actually invested in finishing. Also interesting fact, the Doctor from Doctor Who is an Eternal Champion, according to Moorcock himself in a book he wrote. Well, that was the first comic review of the new year. Of course, you know I do movies and TV shows review on this channel as well, Micaiah World Reviews. So please check that out. So please check out my podcast, the Dark Peaks Podcast. But anyway, are you familiar with Elric? Do you know any of Michael's works beyond that? Would you like to see this character get a live-action movie or TV? Let me know down below. Also hit my Patreon up to let me know what you want me to review. Keep a totally open mind. I'm willing to consider just about anything. Also follow me on Instagram for daily Twin Peaks memes. Next week, we finish up the Elric story, where I finish the last issues of Elric, The Balance Lost. Hope it keeps that level of consistency we saw here today. Well, this has been Lito Micaiah, Master of Minds and Men. Thank you, and goodbye.